Hi again, everybody. I'm going to do a quick video today to talk about the nutrition requirements for supporting growth and maintenance of muscle mass. Um, I'll go through the macronutrients, but before we even get into that, let's just talk about the most basic requirement, and that is a caloric surplus. So, a caloric surplus needs to be just enough to support the accumulation and maintenance of new tissue. That could be somewhere around 5 to 10% of your total caloric maintenance needs on top of, again, so that would be your surplus. I do not advocate dirty bulking or eating excessive amounts to try to accumulate muscle tissue quicker, because the faster you go and accumulate that weight, the larger percentage of it will be body fat, and that will be just more work for you to strip off later. And that time when you're stripping it off later, you're going to be risk for losing more of that muscle mass than if you didn't have to diet as hard because you've accumulated so much body fat. So make sure you are in surplus, but not too much. Again, I would say like 0.5 to half a percent to 5% to 10% of your body weight as a surplus, just to try out and see if that moves. Now, you do need enough to support new tissue, because muscle tissue is metabolically expensive. So keep that in mind. Of course, body fat is the opposite, is metabolically inexpensive, is easy to accumulate and difficult to get rid of. Muscle tissue is the opposite. It is difficult to accumulate and easy to get rid of, because the body wants to be as efficient as possible and have its requirements and its load to be as minimal as possible. That is, survival. That is life. So keep that in mind. You have to be able to exceed that requirement to be able to add muscle tissue consistently, day after day. This is where the importance of logging and journaling comes in. But you don't need to be so much that you're gaining body fat. So look at that, 5% to 10% of your total calories. Try that out as your surplus. See if it works. Iterate over time. Take notes. See how much the scale moves, how much the accumulation of body fat versus muscle tissue is, and you should be able to arrive at a number that works for you. Now, another thing to consider, of course, is protein. Protein gets talked about a lot. I'll talk a little bit about different kinds of protein and everything, but essentially, most of the research just rounded out, I would say, 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram to start as your baseline for accumulating muscle tissue. Most people will find they benefit by being higher in that scale, but some people may not need as much, so I will leave it as 1.5 to 2.0 as starting. You might want to go up to 2.5 or even higher. It depends. I think the more muscle mass you carry, the more protein you will need, simply because besides acquiring new muscle tissue and the basic protein requirements of a basic human body, all that muscle tissue you carry is being turned over at some sense and another, cell replacement. So you need more protein in your blood to support that more muscle tissue that's just kind of hanging around and living in your body that you've already accumulated. So bigger guys will require more protein, and that's why that scale is not exactly linear. You might have to adjust it upwards if you're carrying a lot of muscle mass. So 1.5 to 2.0 grams per kilogram as a start, and don't be afraid to go higher, because as you should know by now, and the research has proven out, you cannot eat too much protein. There is no limit how much you can assimilate at one time. What you eat goes into your stomach and your small intestines and will be absorbed over hours and hours and hours, if not longer. So do not worry about being able to eat enough or too much or whatever. This is especially true with whole foods, which will be just digested slower over time. If you haven't eaten anything all day and you have like a whey protein shake with nothing in it, of course that'll be very quick and you get a big spike of amino acids in the blood and then it'll be gone. So you don't really want to be doing that too frequently, maybe between meals, and mixing the shake with some other nutrients or even some fiber to slow things down, so you don't have a big trough, peaks and valleys across the day of protein. But eating whole foods is a good way to make sure there's always protein being released into your blood slowly over time. And the protein cannot be stored. It'll be either excreted as urea or will be converted to body fat or carbohydrate via very inefficient mechanisms. So it's difficult to overeat in pure protein. Consider the fact, though, that protein is often provided in the presence of fat, especially with animal sources. So if you're eating a lot of steak to get your protein, you won't be overeating protein, but you might be overeating fat. So just be careful of that. But protein itself, eat as much as you can digest per sitting. Spread it out a bit. Don't eat like just 2 meals a day, like at other ends of the day, like breakfast and dinner that have protein, nothing in between. But you also don't have to be eating every 2 hours unless you're just drinking shakes and it's moving too fast through you. So don't worry about it too much, but just make sure it's always there. The nutrition's there. Your body, your digestive system will take care of releasing it as is needed throughout the day. The other important macronutrient, of course, is carbohydrate. Carbohydrate I put right up there because carbohydrate is the primary fuel for training. And without training, you cannot grow or support mass. People can do low carbohydrate diets. It's entirely possible, but it is suboptimal for muscle growth and muscle maintenance. If you are on a low carbohydrate diet, you will not be able to train with as much intensity for as long as is needed to add more muscle tissue, and certainly not the whole muscle tissue that you may have added with a normal high carbohydrate diet. Carbohydrates, I would start at least, again, these are guidelines, at least 2.5 to 5 grams per kilogram, depending upon, again, the size of the individual. So, if you're 100 kilograms, that would be 250 grams or 500 grams of carbohydrate, depending upon your size. More muscle, again, will require more carbohydrate proportionately for the same weight person. Some bodybuilders will get up to 700, even 1,000 grams of carbohydrates in their high carbohydrate days. These are exceptions. They are exceptions because these people carry a large amount of muscle tissue and can store a large amount of glycogen in their body before it spills over and starts to be stored as body fat. So keep that in mind. So protein, very hard to convert to fat. Carbohydrate, a bit hard, not as hard to convert to fat, especially if you're using what you need and nothing more. But I do believe that enough carbohydrate is essential to fuel workouts, which will fuel muscle growth, which will support muscle tissue in the long term, and will also, of course, give you the look that you want. I mean, if you want to have full round muscles and not flat pancake muscles, you need to have enough carbohydrate and the water that will go along with them, of course, to make glycogen stored in the muscle tissue. The last nutrient is fat. Fats I'll put last because, we need them, of course, but they are not super important for muscle growth. You have to have enough to support normal cellular function, hormone production, the integrity of cell walls, brain tissue, all these things come from fat. But it's very, very difficult to get too little fat, especially if you're using animal proteins for your protein sources. You're going to be getting enough fat. I do believe in adding supplemental fats of healthy fats here and there. I do use olive oil in my foods, but I don't cook with it. So, for example, if I eat pasta, and I do like pasta for my carbs, I am Italian, I will drizzle a bit of olive oil on the pasta, stir it in, before I add a sauce or something like that to it. So it'll be about a tablespoon of olive oil in there mixed in. That's quality, healthy fats, and again, it's not cooked, so it's not going to be damaged at all by the high heats. So again, with the fats, feel free to add in a little bit as needed. Keep it relatively low. I wouldn't advocate for anybody targeting over 50 grams a day of fat, because you're probably going to get that anyways, just from eating other things, even avocados, fruits like avocado, besides animal proteins, we're going to supply you plenty of fat. But if you are having a hard time meeting your calorie requirements with the protein and carbohydrate macros already saturated, adding healthy fats is not a bad idea. Healthy fats like olive oil also tend to offset some of the negative impact from particularly red meats. So this is a bit of an aside, but if you like steak like I do, lean red meats, a meal of steak, rice, and spinach with olive oil drizzled on the spinach does a great job for mitigating any of the deleterious effects of eating red meat. It's been proven many times in different research, and it's probably one of the core fundamentals of the Mediterranean diet. The presence of olive oil does have certain mitigating factors that make the eating of meats and other not harmful. Meat's not harmful, but any kind of deleterious effects that come from eating large amounts of meat will be mitigated by using olive oil and also green leafy vegetables. That's why I love that meal of steak, spinach, and rice. So there you go. Those are your main macronutrients. Of course, hydration is super important. Drink enough water. If you're thirsty, it's already too late, as they say. I don't think you have to pound tons of water. Go with what your body feels. So have something to drink with every meal. Coffee's okay in the morning, of course. That's fluid. For me, I make sure I'm pretty much drinking all day, on and off. Try not to get too thirsty, except when I'm talking like this, I do get a little bit thirsty. But in the gym, I have a rather large intra workout. I probably drink about 1 to 1.5 liters of fluid in the gym, along with my intra, which has other nutrients in it, which I can talk about sometime. But I do make sure I get enough hydration. You'll find if you don't have enough hydration and you don't have enough of the minerals that go along with that, such as good old sodium, you will feel quite lethargic and tired. That's a good sign that you're dehydrated and probably you need more sodium. So I won't go into sodium too much right now because that is a bit of a hot button issue right now. Some people talking about using lots of sodium. Some people saying no sodium. I say use enough, particularly in the workout. Can be quite helpful in your water, in your intra workout if you do have an intra workout. But yeah, those are the basics. Just wanted to get them out there. Caloric surplus, protein, carbohydrate, and fats, water, and also some other minerals, especially like sodium, magnesium, calcium, which you'll get mostly through your food anyway, especially if you're eating green leafy vegetables as advocated. And for carbohydrates, don't forget fruits. Okay, of course, vegetables, we know, you got to eat your vegetables, but fruits too sometimes get a bit of a hard knock. People talking about fructose is bad for you. Fructose isn't bad for you. Eating gallons and gallons of fructose at one setting is bad for you, and that's really hard to do. Go drink like 2 liters of orange juice at one setting. That's too much fructose in there, because remember, it's not just fructose, it's sucrose in fruit sugars, and it's actually hard to consume a huge amount of fructose. No fruit is all fructose, I believe. All are going to be combinations thereof. And if you're eating fruits, they will have natural fibers, which will slow down the absorption and the actual quantity you can eat. I mean, to get anywhere near a deleterious effect from eating enough fructose, which is, I think, somewhere in excess of 100 grams in most research, you'd have to eat like 1 kilogram or more of pineapple at one sitting. And I don't mean like taking a pineapple and cutting it, that's 1 kilogram. I mean actually eating 1 kilogram of pineapple. So that's really hard to do. Don't worry about that too much. Eat your fruits, enjoy them. They're super healthy. They provide a lot of essential nutrients, and they taste good. So, and of course, protein is also aided digestion by the bromelain in pineapple. So that's one of the reasons why pineapple is one of my favorite foods. So yeah, there you go. Caloric surplus, nutrients, water. These are all the basics. You probably know them. It's just the most important thing is staying consistent. I recommend logging and journaling if you're trying something new, so you can look back and reflect on what worked for you, what didn't, and where, when you changed things, it made a difference or it didn't make a difference. So just take the things I'm talking about as a guideline. It's not absolute, but all human beings basically work the same way, but within certain ranges. Some people are super efficient, some people are not. Some people respond better to some things than others. Some people digest certain proteins better than others. Some people respond better to other carbohydrates than others. Some people love certain fruits compared to others. Everybody's a little bit different, but within ranges. Okay, so there shouldn't be any surprises. The fundamentals are the same for everybody. But just, don't be afraid to experiment. But like I say, document it. Write it down so you can reflect and understand what works best for you. So not only can you make the right adjustments this season, but you can go back next year, the years after, and be able to reproduce the favorable changes that you make in your program right now. So that's it for today. Just wanted to talk about that and get it out there. If you like this kind of stuff, if you want to hear me talk more in depth, I'd love to do that too. As I said before on this channel, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been bodybuilding for 40 years. I am 55 in a few months. I am still healthy. I still think I look pretty good. I perform very well in the gym. So I do feel like I have some idea of what I'm doing. So if you'd like to hear more about someone who's kind of been around the block and back, and has some experience they want to share with you, please let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you want to see more of this. That lets me know that this is good content. We'll also make sure that YouTube shows the content to other people who might be interested in it. But as always, thank you very much for your time and attention. I do appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the future and provide you with valuable information that is easy and accessible. Thank you. Until next time. Bye-bye.